This is Ongeim'l Tketau, better known as Jellyfish Lake. A single, isolated marine lake among the hundreds that dot Palau's rock islands. The creatures moving around me are utterly defenseless. They have evolved without their fiery stings. How does a paradise teeming with millions of vulnerable lives evolve in total isolation from the ocean's predators? The answer is not just biological. It is geological. A story written in 12,000-year-old limestone and trapped seawater. We must look beneath this golden, sunlit surface into a hidden world that both creates this unique life and holds the power to instantly extinguish it. This is a lost world. Tucked away in the limestone heart of Ongeim'l Island, this basin was once a depression in an ancient reef. When the last ice age ended and sea levels rose, it was flooded and then slowly sealed off from the surrounding ocean. It is not completely isolated. We can see tiny fissures and tunnels in the ancient limestone. They allow a minuscule, filtered exchange of seawater with a nearby lagoon. But it is enough to keep the lake sailing, yet not enough to let the ocean's predators in. This isolation created a paradox. The lake is what scientists call meromictic. This means it is permanently stratified. It is a world divided into two distinct, warring layers. The top 15 meters, roughly 50 feet, are oxygen-rich. This is the Mixolymian. It is the realm of light, air, and all visible life. I can feel the warmth of the surface water, and it's a vibrant, life-giving green. But below this layer is the monolymian. It is anoxic, completely devoid of oxygen. And it is supersaturated with toxic hydrogen sulfide. A lethal, purple-hued prison, hostile to any creature that breathes. These layers never mix. The deep, saltwater-fed bottom layer is too dense. The rain-fed surface layer is too light. A sharp chemical boundary, the chemicline, separates them. This stratification is the engine of the ecosystem, and also its greatest weakness. It creates the safe haven at the surface, but it also concentrates a toxic reservoir just below. A delicate balance where millions of lives exist on a thin, fragile ceiling and floating just inches above an abyss. This sunlit upper layer is the domain of a single, dominant species. Millions upon millions of them. They are known as the Golden Jellyfish. but their color is not their own. It is the color of the algae, the zooxanthellae, living within their tissues. This is a profound, ancient partnership, a perfect symbiosis. The jellyfish provides a safe, mobile home. The algae, in return, harness the power of the sun. Through photosynthesis, they produce sugars, feeding the jellyfish from the inside out, providing the vast majority of its energy. They are solar-powered, and their entire existence is dictated by this need for light. This lake is not just a home, it is a clock. The jellyfish are its living, pulsing hands. We are witnessing one of the most predictable and poetic migrations on the planet. Every morning, as the sun rises in the east, the entire population begins to move from the western basin. They travel as a single Golden Rebirth, a pilgrimage toward the light, ensuring their internal gardens receive maximum sunlight. As the sun arcs overhead, they follow it. Around noon, they cluster near the center. And in the afternoon, they reverse their journey, following the setting sun back to the western shore. They spin slowly as they swim, a gentle rotation to ensure all their algae get a share of the light. But this is only half the story. Photosynthesis requires more than just sunlight. It needs nutrients, specifically nitrogen and phosphorus. In this isolated lake, those nutrients are scarce in the surface layer. The vast reservoir of nutrients is locked in that toxic layer below. As darkness falls, the migration changes. The jellyfish stop chasing light and begin a careful, vertical descent. They swim downward, right to the edge of the abyss. They approach the dangerous chemicline.
That boundary between life and death.
Here, they absorb the rich nutrients seeping up from the anoxic depths. They are farming the boundary of a poisoned world to fuel their sunlit paradise.
This entire intricate dance, this symbiotic relationship, this stingless existence, is only possible because no predators hunt them. The isolation that built the lake also built the creature. It is a perfectly balanced system. Or so it appeared. Then, in 1998, the migration stopped. The Golden River vanished. The lake fell silent. We were witnessing a total ecosystem collapse, triggered by an event thousands of miles away. The culprit was one of the most powerful El Niño events of the 20th century. For Palau, this meant a severe, agonizing drought. For months, the rains that sustained the lake's surface layer simply stopped. Remember, the lake's two layers are balanced by salinity and rainfall. Without fresh rain, the surface layer evaporated. It grew hotter and dangerously salty. The water temperature climbed past 31 degrees Celsius. The conditions for the delicate symbiosis were destroyed. The heat and salinity stressed the jellyfish. They expelled their symbiotic algae. It was a bleaching event, identical to what we see in coral reefs. The golden jellyfish turned a ghostly white, and then they starved. Millions of them gone. I swam here in the aftermath. The water was clear, unsettlingly so. The great golden migration had been replaced by a profound, empty silence. The lake's defining feature, its life, had been extinguished. The lake's stratification, its defining feature, had become a trap. There was no escape, no cooler, deeper water to retreat to. They were trapped in a warming bowl, unable to flee the very water that had protected them. And then it happened again. After years of slow recovery, a new population had begun to take hold. But in 2016, another massive El Niño struck. Another devastating drought. The population crashed once more. From an estimated 8 million down to virtually zero. The Great Silence had returned. This paradise, this perfect evolutionary experiment, was revealed to be one of the most fragile ecosystems on Earth. It is a perfect, isolated barometer for the planet's climate. And the warning it was sending was absolute. Twice, this lake was declared dead. Twice, the golden migration was erased. And yet, I am here now, and they are back. Where did they come from?
If every adult jellyfish died, how can this paradise be reborn?
The answer was not on the surface. It was hidden on the shallow, rocky ledges of the lake, in a different phase of the jellyfish life cycle. The jellyfish has a secret, a resilient, stationary form known as a polyp. These tiny, anemone-like creatures live attached to the lake's edges. They are the benthic stage. They survive the heat, clinging to life in shaded crevices. And when the El Niño passed, when the rains returned, and the lake's temperature and salinity stabilized, these polyps began to bud, releasing new, tiny jellyfish called ephirae. The lake was, in effect, reseeding itself. This is a story of resilience. But it is also a profound warning. The very isolation that forged this unique world, that eliminated predators and created the stingless jellyfish. Oh, it is the same isolation that makes it so exquisitely fragile. There is no connection to the wider ocean, no influx of cooler water, no escape. This lake is a perfect, contained experiment, a microcosm of our entire planet. It is a self-contained ark that has been turned into a crucible by our changing climate. The great silence of Jellyfish Lake was not a local event. It was the amplified echo of a global fever, a direct physical manifestation of climate change. The cycle of collapse and recovery
Is now a race.
Between the resilience of life
and the increasing frequency of the climate shocks we are sending its way. This single, hidden lake, pulsing with a silent, golden migration, serves as a delicate barometer for the health of our Pacific. It teaches us that isolation does not mean disconnection.
In its profound vulnerability, we see a mirror of all the precious.
Fragile worlds balanced on the edge, reminding us that the ripples from our industrial lives can now reach even the most remote, protected, and magical corners of the earth.